Right, so I thought that today, before doing the painting, I'll just talk through everything that I use for outdoor painting, and that's it in its entirety. And for me, the point is just to keep everything compact, make sure that I'm not carrying too many things. The idea of lumping around more than two things on my shoulders is enough to put me off. So I've managed to get it so that everything fits in this. So what I'll do is I'll just open up everything as I would, and I'll just talk through the contents, what I use, why I use it. Then I'm going to have a bash at painting the tree line at the bottom of that small valley. There's a national trail which is running alongside here, but I'll probably do the painting from up on that hill there. So yeah, I'll just talk through what I bring with me. First of all is the camera tripod, just a standard tripod, and they fit on the bottom of the pochade boxes. This one's a Manfrotto, and it's good because it's really lightweight. I bought one that has two means of movement. So it moves left and right, and up and down. Let's get this up. It's super lightweight as well. Right. So with camera tripods, you get an adapter which fits into the top of the tripod here. What you do with your pochade box, this is a Gorilla pochade box that takes 9x12 inch painting panels or canvases. You get a metal plate which is already fastened to the bottom. There are some boxes that don't come with the metal plate and you have to buy it separately, but you can get that from most of the art shops which are on the internet. The adapter which comes with the camera tripod, you screw into the bottom of it as a permanent fixture. Then it's a quick release mechanism basically. That simply, I can just get it, simply clicks in. There's a lever, and that's it. It's on. Tight. So the box is in place. So this one's got a couple of catches on, and it has a small hinge just to tighten at the back. The lid opens up. Most people then angle it at a near vertical level like that. Right, so I'll talk about the lid first of all. Most of them either have a groove in which you can slot in a standard sized panel. Some boxes have an adapter which fit into the grooves, which can then hold smaller panels. I think this brand of box you can buy an adapter, but I don't have it because I'm quite happy to paint on the panel which is for the size of the box. So this takes a 9x12 inch panel. These catches here are just to separate. You can hold I think it's 3 or 4 in this box, and you can have the paintings wet and they won't touch each other. You can remove these and put in some different catches which came with the box, which will hold a single canvas at 9x12. So I use MDF. I'll just slot that in there. This one has these palette extensions which didn't come with the box, but they're actually made for this box. So I bought those separately. So there's extended mixing areas, holes to put brushes in, and in my case I use them to clip on mediums. Right, okay, so lots of room in this box for everything. Like I say, that's the point for me, to make sure that everything can be fit in this box, or at the very least inside the carrier for the tripod. So I have painted mediums in here, a dropper which I don't use, so I used to sometimes just make a mix and then transfer it into the dippers. I don't do that anymore, I just gauge it by hand. How many paints do I have in here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 paints, but it could obviously fit a lot more in should I need to use more. Variety of brushes in there, more than I need, and a rag just to wipe my brushes. Again, I could have, on this occasion I've not filled it with water, or if you're using traditional oils, which I don't use, you can put thinner in there to thin your paints out. You can fill that at home before you come out, and then you don't have to carry a bottle with you of water or solvents. Right, selfie stick. I noticed somebody on YouTube using I think it was the leg of an old camera tripod. He was using it as a mile stick. So a mile stick is something that you would rest your arm on when doing detail, and it gave me the idea of using a selfie stick as a mile stick, because the selfie stick comes with this particular shape, which can fit onto the side of the box no problem. So then the idea is you pull it out, that sits over the shoulder, and you can rest your arm and do detail. Also, what I like about it is this can also act as a ruler as well, should I need a ruler, by simply just clicking onto the side. You can pull it taut and you've got a line. It's not super straight because of the telescopic aspects to it, but for the purpose of a small painting, it'll do the job, and it'll certainly be better than going freehand. You could say what would be better is using an actual ruler, but the problem with the ruler is that it'd have to be bigger. For me to hold it stable and for it to not touch the painting surface, it would have to be bigger than the actual box lid. And for it to be bigger than the box lid would mean it's not fitting inside the box, and that's a problem for me. I don't want additional carrying to be taking place. So the good thing about this is it's telescopic. It fits into my box no problem. And I mean, I can also do vertical straight lines as well. Just hang it on the top there, and I've got a line. It's ideal, really. Good thing about this as well is it finds the balancing point anywhere I put it. So it's quite handy. The paints I use are water-mixable oil paints. So it's Winsor & Newton Artisan. And what that means is that, well, firstly, it's exactly the same stuff that's in normal traditional oil paints, in that it's the same pigment, it's the same vehicle, which is linseed oil. I think the higher quality oil paints also have safflower oil in as well. But the difference with these is that the linseed oil has been messed about with scientifically so that water can get in. And the point of that is that it can break up the paints in the same way that a solvent would on traditional oil paints. It means that you don't have to use anything that's toxic with these paints. You can just use water to clean your brushes. You can technically use water to thin your paints, but it doesn't have a great effect, to be honest. You can buy special mediums which are adapted to be used with these, such as linseed oil, which again has been scientifically modified to let water in, and you can use a thinner which is a representative of turpentine, which is non-toxic, and it's the Artisan range. You need to buy the range which is relevant to the paints that you buy, so these are Artisan. I'd say quality-wise, they sit between. There are 3 different grades. I'd say there's the artist quality grade paints, which is exactly the same pigment as in this, but it's there in abundance. There's a lot of pigment, and it means that those paints can get across your painting surface in one brush stroke, especially if it's a small one, and you don't have to keep picking up paint. And that's really the main difference between a artist quality paint and this one. I say this sits in the middle between the artist quality and the student grade paints. The student grade paints are exactly the same pigment, the same vehicle, but they have a lot less pigment. Also, the student grade paints don't have some of the better quality paints, like this is cadmium. What they have is something called a hue. So for things like cadmiums, cobalts, and some of the more expensive paints like sap green and viridian, they have alternatives. In fact, in this case of sap green and viridian, I don't think that is the case, but definitely in the case of cobalts and cadmiums, the student grade paints don't produce them. They produce a paint which has cadmium in the title, but then is followed by the word hue. And the hue is just a mixture of lesser quality paints, or even a fully synthetic paint, which aims to just simply represent the colour of the true paint, the true cadmium or cobalt paint. But they don't mix in the same way. They're not very good. So the good thing about the artist quality one, these water mixable ones, is that they do, whilst they're not artist quality in pigment load, they do still have true cadmiums and cobalts. So this is a kind of in between the student grade and the artist quality grade. The determining factor for me as well is the fact that it's not toxic. Well, cadmium is technically toxic if you just squeeze it all in your mouth and eat it, but the not needing solvents, not needing turpentine, that's what sells it for me. So that is absolutely everything I bring with me on an outdoor painting expedition, if that's what you can call it. It's really lightweight. It's there at the drop of a hat. I can just, if things are going okay at home or whatever, I can just say, right, I'll spend the next 2 hours painting, and I don't have to think about packing things. It's already there. It's already convenient. And right, well, I'll crack on with trying to paint something. Right, so I've just done a rough sketch using ultramarine blue and burnt umber, just the general shapes of where the valley sits, the bank of trees, and the distant rolling hills. So there's not much sky in this, which is just as well, because the sky's not doing too much anyway. So I'll give this a bash. Right. So I'm just using a piece of MDF that has a single layer of PVA glue on it. I've not bothered using a gesso primer or any other kind of primer. I may look into the idea of using an alkyd primer when I can get my hands on it, but for now I've not found anything that's as good for the flow of paint as the plain old wood on an MDF panel. The only problem is that despite me putting a layer of PVA glue down to try and act as a retarder to absorption, it doesn't properly work. I don't want to put on too much PVA glue because that'll defeat the purpose of me having the smoothness of the board. It'll become something else. I just hope that it's enough to A, keep it slick, and B, enough to stop the oil and pigment sinking in, but it's not, in short. But not long after I put the paint down, I can see that it's fading, so it must be getting in. And which it doesn't do that with gesso as much, but using gesso, I just don't like it. personal project today is try and keep my painting thin. Try not to use as much paint really, and as always try and concentrate on making sure that the colours are representative of what I see. For me it's the eternal goal. It's not getting any better in achieving it, to be honest. I've got an awkward standing position because I'm at the top of a hill, so one leg is lower than the other, and it's putting undue pressure on my my leg. It's an awkward angle to stand at. But to be anywhere else other than on this hill wouldn't give me the full scene that I'm trying to capture. Let's get some proper grey in there now. No need for any straight lines, so I shouldn't have to use the selfie stick. There's a big chink of light on the horizon where the sky meets land, and it's a bit of a, I don't know, if I were to render it in paints it'd be yellow ochre with a lot of white. I'm just worried that it's going to really alter the sky as I've done it in a really negative way. I don't think it's even going to get in there now that the paint's very wet. Maybe not. It's just a line. It won't show up on the camera because of the contrast issues, but it's not far. There's actually another one above. It's not far off. decided to ditch phthalo green and viridian because I wasn't using them. I've replaced it with sap green, give it a try. I've never used it. I was never using phthalo green. I just didn't see a place for it in anything that I was painting. Well, sometimes I used it to make a really dark, close to black, in conjunction with, I think it was alizarin crimson and ultramarine blue. It gave a black which had a bias towards other colours, and it didn't make it look like an unnatural black, so it helped it with that. But all in all, I could maybe use that palette space with a colour, better use that palette space with a colour that I'm more likely to pick up more often. I think that sky's alright. Right, well that's the easy bit done now. Now the eternal quest to spot colour, mix it and get it down correctly. Another thing I want to do, if I remember, is not paint toward the edges all the time and try and use some of the natural tone of the board underneath. This is another reason why I don't like to gesso over it, because I like the look of MDF it's a mid-tone, so there's no harm in it being your base colour on which to paint. I like it. I just, like I said, I've said it previously, I've not heard of anyone condone its usage as a painting panel without any kind of primer on. But I just think the paint sits so well on it. I'll always ruin a mix by just putting a big blob of something inappropriate in there. Right, so let's try ultramarine blue. I'll leave the red that's in there, ultramarine blue, yellow ochre, a tiny bit of this sap green, see what it does. Put some burnt umber in as well, just to bring it down a bit. It's alright actually. Yeah, so like I said earlier, I'm deliberately painting really thin just to see if it has if I can create some unity. I say that not knowing even what I mean by that. I think I want the board to come through a little bit and dictate the overall look of things. It's true, it's trial and error what I'm doing, it's simple as that really. I think I've got to just investigate new ways of doing things, because I'm not, when I look at what I've done, I'm not happy, and I stare at people's paintings such as Tom Hughes, who does a channel called Thoughts on Painting, and to be honest what he does blows me away. I don't know how he does it. Well, you can sit and watch how he does it, but then you try and emulate it and it's a different story. But even he says you need to do 1,000 paintings before you get to where you are. I'd certainly need to do 1,000 paintings to get where he is. But it's good. I think YouTube's great for watching other people and getting ideas. It's what I suppose really. I mean, I've never had an art lesson in my life. You don't really have to now that there's YouTube. It's brilliant. The internet's no good for society in a lot of ways, but I've got to concede that it's helped give me a new hobby, one that I wouldn't have considered otherwise. What I would also say about this hobby is that it's very, very cheap. Well, it can be cheap if you do things right. Like, okay, you need to take a hit initially when you buy your main materials. Like this box costs just over £100, but it's sturdy. I've had no trouble from it whatsoever. It's going to last a long time. The paints that I use cost just over £5. I'm only using 8 colours and I'm only squeezing out small amounts. In fact, with the colours that I use the most of, such as titanium white, ultramarine blue, yellow ochre and burnt umber, I plumped it for buying the 200ml tubes, and so far, with the exception of titanium white, they've lasted me over a year. So I've not had to buy those colours in a year. Because I'm working small, this is only a 9x12 panel, and when you're outdoors, that's the idea of working. You keep it small. That then pays off. It means you can maintain the hobby at low cost. The brushes don't cost the earth; they only cost a few £1 a brush, and you don't need that many as well. The amount of money I've spent, I mean, equipment-wise, I'm happy where I am now. I know that I won't have to spend. I'll only have to spend on titanium white and linseed oil, and that's it. I don't think I'll need to purchase any paints or art materials until at least spring next year. So if you work small, you save money, obviously. Let's do some tree mass. Right, so autumn's kicking in, and thankfully trees aren't all the same colour as they were in summer. I'm normally going with darks first and then build around them, but I'm not sure. So with absolutely everything I do, I don't truly know what I'm doing. I'm pretty much untrained, and I'm just still finding my feet, and I will be for a long time. I only started doing this at the end of spring last year. And whenever I get time, all I do is just watch people on YouTube, see what they're doing and how they're doing it. A bit too brown, that really. A bit of alizarin crimson in, a bit of cobalt blue. So I'm just blocking in the tree mass with darks, because obviously there are darks that show up in the trees. Just get those down first, then build into it with lighter colours, and the darks won't appear so harsh. They'll just have the subtle effect of shadows, which is what they're supposed to have, really. Just ignore that for a bit and I'll just block in some of the foreground hills. That's way too green. A bit too slippery. Yeah, there's a big blob of linseed oil got into that, and that's looking pretty horrendous. I'm just going to stop the camera now. I need to let all of this oil settle down and I'll come back to it. Right, so I've just scratched some lines in here to try and represent the plough lines that are going on. I'm quite happy with the scruffy brush marks on this field here. I'll leave that for now. I'll just start working in some of the dense foliage at the base of the painting. Still quite a lot of oil on here. It's gone a bit wrong in that sense. I'll probably need to reinforce the darks because I realise I've just totally snuffed out all of the dark I put in. I've done that too thick. I said I was going to try and keep everything thin, so I've let myself down there. It's just old habits. I keep painting in the way that I always have done, which is a way that I'm not happy about. It's really difficult to try and force yourself to do it. Let's have the stickers gone. It's difficult to paint in a way that's different. it's hard to condition your way of thinking into saying to yourself that these can't look like really accomplished pieces of work ever, because you're working outdoors and you're working to a time schedule. Like I say, with proper plein air painters, what they do in the time that they've got is phenomenal, but it's still clearly not a refined piece of work. It's something else. It's something I don't even know how to explain it. It's something that I like to look at more than I would, say, a piece of work that's taken months and months of slaving over. I like the spontaneity of it. I like the way that colours have been quickly mixed, that represents what you're looking at. You don't doubt it. Everything looks right to how it is in nature. That's what I'm trying to achieve. It's so difficult. What it's got going for it is that it does look, colour-wise, tone-wise, it does look accurate. I think I need to see other people's plein air paintings close up. I need to see what I should expect of myself, what's achievable. Because the thing is, when you watch them on the internet, you can't always see exactly what it looks like close up, and cameras don't always tell the truth. Right, let's just try and... a lot in this foliage. I mean, it's all just one brown mass at the minute, and that's not what it is. It's a mixture of all of the colours of autumn, really. Let's try and get them in now. Like I said, I put way too much oil on with this tree mass, and it's becoming difficult to work. It's a bit better. A bit too orange, really. that scratching doesn't work. Just some. I don't like it. Just get that green back. Right, I think I'll just do some of the foliage at the base here, where the national track is. This is just, it's all brown colours, and I'll put scratching some branches here, there, and everywhere. There is a fence as well. I'll depict in a very, very rough manner that runs the length of the track right down into the distance, and I'll just leave it. Put some more, because I want to scratch in, I need to make it thicker, so I'll just increase the density of those foreground trees. A little bit too harsh, but I'll just paint over it slightly. Right, I think for the fence, now what's scratching, I'll actually paint that with a rigger brush. Right, so the selfie stick marl stick makes its appearance. Let's see if it works alright. Fine job from the selfie stick marl stick, or marl stick come selfie stick, selfie stick come marl stick, whatever. What's not good is my use of the rigger brush. I think that seriously needs to improve before the next painting session. Probably a little bit too pronounced, this. I ran out of battery on the chest cam. That's the finished painting, and I'm quite pleased with it, because, well, if the viewfinder's telling the truth, which I think it is, that the colours are bang on, and I think that's the first time I've ever achieved something as accurate. So I hope watching this has sold the idea of going out and painting. I would say in all weathers. Whether that's gonna happen across winter and the back end of autumn, I'm not sure, but we'll see how I go.